No mechanism within the 457 visa to make sure that Australians get first access to jobs. The government will point to two things. They'll say there's a shortage occupation list, but that has 600 occupations on it, many of which are not in shortage. So things like nursing, engineering, occupations which Australian graduates are struggling to get into the labour market for, those jobs are on this so-called occupational shortage list for the 457 visa. Gemma, the other mechanism the government will point to is employer-conducted labour market testing, which was introduced under Labor in 2013, but was implemented by the coalition in government, and it is a farce. It essentially allows an employer to test the labour market by putting an ad on Facebook. The ad doesn't have to be paid, it can be anywhere on social media, and that is enough to show that you've tested the labour market. So Bill Shorten does have a point when he says that the 457 visa allows foreign workers to replace Australian workers in the labour market.
So do you therefore agree with Labor that 457 should be scaled back, and or do you agree with the Coalition MP George Christensen that they should be banned from certain areas?
Look, the most important thing we need to remember here is that the 457 visa program is an economic contributor. It does benefit the Australian economy, but it needs to be used correctly. And we've had a review when the Rudd government was in, and also another review commissioned by the coalition led by John Azarias. Both of these said we need to have independent labour market testing. The Rudd government review also said that this labour market testing needs to result in regional occupation lists, because the reality is we might have a skilled shortage in metropolitan Sydney and metropolitan Melbourne, but we don't have the same shortage in Northern Australia. So we need to have regional nuances dealt with through the 457 visa. At present, there's simply no mechanism to find out where are the genuine skill shortages and to address them.
And, I mean, for an employer, there'd obviously be a lot of paperwork with the 457s, I would think. So why would they try to get, try to make a farcical ad for a job but instead get someone from overseas? Do they pay them less?
Look, there's been a lot of research to show that employers will have a raft of motivations around getting a temporary migrant worker in. So while the program, the regulation of the program says that 457 visas holders have to be paid equivalent wages and conditions to local Australian workers, the reality that we know is that on the ground there are many dodgy employers across the country where this is simply not happening. Many employers also prefer to use temporary migrant workers because they are a more compliant workforce. They tend not to complain, they tend not to be unionised. And for a dodgy employer, you can get around that paperwork with labour market testing very easily. It's very easy to avoid.